everybody. Elcon here with Heather Kafka and Cameron Bruce Nelson from Some Beasts. Cameron, I know this is a passion project. This is a bit about, you know, your life and what nature means to you, maybe, I guess, would be a way to look at it. But tell us about, you've gotten to the point of making the film now. I mean, it's been a project forever. Can you talk to me about getting to this point?
Yeah, well, my friend and I we started out as migrant workers. So we were traveling, like we were riding trains and going out, kind of just putting ourselves out there, but we wanted to be part of the locavore, kind of like local food movement. So we ended up on this farm in Virginia, and we worked there for 3 years. And I understood that it was something like very special, but more so when I became a filmmaker than when I was living. I mean, I fully appreciated it while I was living there, but when I became a filmmaker, I realized that it was something that you didn't really get to see in cinema. And I knew that I would have the community support, and I knew the locations because, you know, I walked them every single day. So I knew exactly where I wanted to shoot. And the special thing for me was to be able to bring this great group of Texas artists, Heather, Frank, you know, we have a great crew as well, and just sort of bring them into the community and all together kind of form this big family. And I feel like that really comes through in the film, and just the process of how we work together. It was something that was really special. So
I want to kind of, Heather, ask you about that, because, you know, I mean, you've got Hutch, you've got Courtney, you've got like everybody coming from Texas and battling all different types of weather. You guys shot in the fall, you shot in the spring, shot through hurricanes, you battled through all of it, and you're, you know, still this little tight family. What was it from your perspective coming in as an actress, looking at telling, you know, a story that's obviously personal, but, you know, it's a Texas film set in Virginia. It's weird. Like that, you don't see that every day. What was your perspective coming in?
I mean, I felt incredibly welcomed, for one thing. I never felt like I didn't belong there, or that people didn't want me there, or even that I was separate or different. I knew it was going to be that kind of a shoot going in, and I can't think of anything better as an actor, for me personally, than to shoot something on location, and especially in a location I'd never been to. I mean, that's just like, that's all the gravy for me. I like to just be able to submerge myself in that world. You know, it takes 50% of the energy, the creative energy that I would have to use creating place. I don't have to I can use it to create other things because it's all there. I can just react off the environment that I'm getting, react off these genuine people that I'm meeting and living with and having meals with. And you can't fake those things. I mean, we do all the time, but when you don't have to, I think it always affects a viewer, affects the audience, even if they don't realize that. You know, that if there is that real flavor in the environment that you've put yourself in, it comes off. It comes off on screen. People can feel it in the relationships. They can feel the genuineness there. And so, I mean, that was a dream job for me, actually. I like going through stuff like Hurricane Sandy, and I do.
What was it like working off Frank? You guys, I mean, you have the relationship in the movie. That's the pivotal relationship. Did you guys do any pre-work? Did you guys talk about the roles extensively?
Frank's hard to work with, I'd say. He's a problem. No.
yeah.
I mean, you know, Frank is just as passionate and just really likes to get in there and get dirty with it. And so it always feels like an open channel that we can talk for hours about, well, what are you thinking here? What are you thinking here? And that lends itself to establishing this relationship that hardly ever plays out in the same room. You know, it's a lot of phone calls, and to be able to create that relationship between these two people who are hardly ever on screen together, you know, I think if we weren't both open and passionate about talking with each other that might not be there.
It's interesting you bring up the word dirty. I kind of want to get, I brought this up on the red carpet, and I know it's something important to you. Frank wears a certain head piece. What does that mean?
A few different ones.
But one in particular, one that shows the time he's spent there, the hard work, and the area, the toughness of it. He's not getting a new one unless that thing is done.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, though? I mean, that has a connection back to you.
It does. There is a history in that hat. So I had worn that hat, and I actually, right before the shoot, I was like, I wonder where that hat is, and found it stuffed between, like, a wall and like a piece of furniture, like in the cabin, and had been like completely devastated by rats, and just like,
Oh, that's why it's got the holes?
yes,
Oh, wow.
I know. So I was like, okay, you know, there was a period where I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to use this hat because there's this history. It looks terrible. And then I was like, wait a second though, like this is what would happen with this hat if it got crushed between a wall and a piece of furniture and a rat ate it, you know. And so I decided to just go with it. And to me, what it does also that I really love is it adds texture to the shot.
Yeah.
Because if we would have just had like this like nice new clean hat, like there's no reality to that. There's no authenticity like there is like with the hat that actually has the story behind it. And that was something that we went through with the whole film. It's like, you know, Heather was talking about how she spent like I remember when you first got there, like I was like, all right, like let's jump into it, and you're like, no, I want to take my time. I want to like go for a walk. I want to get to know the environment. And it was so great because I was like, of course, like that makes complete and total sense. Even though we were sort of playing with the notion of she's visiting from Texas, like there's still something that you have to kind of get accustomed to the landscape and the environment, and like you said, like play off of it. So.
And on another side of that, some of the people in it are from that area. You know, they're regular, real farmers, real people. You give a dedication at the end to one of the people in the movie. Can you talk about that and about having that Virginia connection in the film? Even though it is so many Texas-based people going there, it definitely feels like Virginia, though.
Yeah.
Or that area, not just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the dedication at the end of the film is to Acort, who, when I wrote the film, I didn't know him. He was more of a legend to me. And he is an artist and a musician in his own right, and but was ill at the time. And to me, I thought that it would be interesting to figure out a way that we could sort of incorporate him into the film, because he was you just don't see people like Acort ever in films, and especially somebody who is actually, I mean, you can hire a million actors with beards but you don't have an Acort. And so what was really interesting about the film is that 7 days after we finished principal photography, Acort died, and he actually dies in the film, and Sal, which is Frank's character, buries him in a coffin, or makes a coffin for him, which I actually made in real life. And Acort, before we finished shooting, said, "You may not see me after this, and can I keep the coffin to be buried in?" And it just floored me, because I was like, Acort, come on, you know? But in a way, looking back in retrospect, it's almost like this was his last artistic statement. And to me, it lends everything to the film, like a very special sort of air to the film. So that's why that's the dedication. And I mean, you know, the people who are there, I lived and worked with every single day. So in terms of those people, they were all very special to me, and I worked with them and directed them to their strengths, because I knew what they were good at. You know, Matt's a storyteller, like he's brilliant at it. You know, Ed is just this solid sort of father figure. You know, Gary is like a wonderful musician. he's quiet but very like philosophical, and so I mean, I worked with Heather and I worked with Frank, and we sort of negotiated between the actors and non-actors, and to me it just felt so real and right.
This film, no matter what, has the most interesting life. Like it from the get-go has been alive and breathing and moving. I mean, we had a pregnancy
Yes.
during filming,
Mm-hmm.
and then she gave birth.
Yep.
We had a court pass. I
Mhm.
mean, there were all these kind of things like that just were really the life of it. Even just getting to know EP, who played my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
it was very similar to my real daughter, who's about the same age, and getting to see their little family grow to 3 over the course of these seasons, right?
Mhm.
I mean, because I even got to go be there for 2 seasons. In the film, I'm only there for during 1 season, but I
Mhm.
actually shot there a whole other season. And to see the life that had gone on and the things that had changed, and oh, now she's pregnant. Oh my God, that's great. And then get a call that she'd had the baby. And then I remember being in Austin when I got the call from Cameron that A-Court had passed. And it just feels so much more than a film in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a life and death cycle to it.
Getting chills. I mean, it really is. It's there's so much that went on beyond the film, and I feel like it's still. That's what you feel that, and that's kind of like with the screening last night. That's what I felt with the audience, is that there's something intangible about this film that I think is getting through to people.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was only our first screening. It was our first public screening, but already I felt like there was something that was more than just what was on the screen. So that was, to me, it was a magical kind of experience.
Wow. Kind of final question. The title. Can you talk about that and
Mhm.
where that came from? Where that.
Sure. The title comes from a Pablo Neruda poem, and it's Algunas Bestias in Spanish. So I felt like sort of ripping off the title was okay because it's an English title. But at the same time, I spent a lot of time in Chile when I was traveling through South America, and I'm always in love with Neruda. And to me, at the heart of this film is a love story. And so to me, I was like, I want the poet who is most famous for his love sonnets to have a part in this. But at the same time, Some Beast, the actual poem, it's an epic poem of 10 chapters, and that part is about, it's a hallucinogenic sort of journey through the wilderness, and he describes these animals and nature, and to me, it works on a couple different levels in that way, and it just seemed to fit the film. For reasons I won't really go into now, but if you see the film, I think that there's a lot of different ways you could relate the title to what's going on.
I didn't even ever know that. Learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a perfect way to close it. I think that's the poignant thing to do. I was really amazed by it, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Scotty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.